Okay, please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
Allegiance
to the flag
of
of the United States of America and to the republic
Republic
for which it stands, one nation, under God, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, thank you. Well, welcome to this special session of our board. And this meeting has been scheduled in response to the discussion that we began on February 9th, our last board meeting. Unfortunately, that meeting ran very late. This conversation began late in the evening. I appreciate those of you that stayed and joined our discussion. This was just the beginning of the discussion, beginning of a response to a request for rule changes. The way we do this, and as you know, we start out with a discussion period, and then we move to, if we choose that there's a need for a 28-day rule recommendation, we move to that. And after that, we move to enforcing the rule if it looks like it's appropriate. Based on the comments of that night and the volume of emails that we received and all of the posts and the request to have a special meeting, I called this special meeting of the board. The emails that we received were in excess of 150. They ranged, as you can imagine, from all viewpoints, from absolute requests that no change to the rules be made. Actually, there was one that suggested, I think someone that's been around for a long time, that suggested that they didn't like the rules in the first place. And that whole section 4.5 set of rules was inappropriate. So that's one extreme. The other extreme is folks that would like us to take make very serious restrictions on the political signs and things that we can do. And there's lots of room in between. This evening, I provide this with an opportunity to discuss and to decide on.
That's not volume.
So we need to mute those folks. Harmony, please.
Okay.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Gives us an opportunity to discuss and decide the next steps, which is what we're going to be doing. I certainly appreciate the large number of people that have joined us and those that have already communicated with us. I want you to know that, and I believe this is true of all the directors, but I have read every email and many of the posts, some of them twice. And I really appreciate all of the comments that you sent. I appreciate the amount of time that has gone into writing all those words. It's very important, and in amongst there is a lot of nuggets of really, really good information that give us a strong feeling about what our community is interested in, what it stands for in the eyes of the various members. I can't say that I was thrilled with all the insults and the threats of lawsuits and all of those words, but honestly, those don't faze me. I look past all that, and I really dig in and I try to find out what the true message is. Because that's what we're here to do. Before we get started, there's a few things that I'd just like to say to make sure we're all on the same page. Canyon Lake is a mutual benefit corporation, and your boards your board is established to carry out the rules and to follow the rules. So the rules that we have before us are our articles of incorporation. Our CC&Rs are bylaws and the rules that come from those. The Davis-Sterling Act, the Davis-Sterling Common Interest Act, is in place, and it's the basic law that we have to follow. And everything, Davis-Sterling insists that everything that we talk about and everything that we decide is done in open session, except for those things that have to do with member discipline, legal contracts, and personal matters and legal matters. And we do that. And all the discussion happens in our open sessions. Davis-Sterling makes it very clear that three of us cannot get together and have a conversation about anything. And that is because then we could collude and decide what was going to happen. That's against the law. Two of us can get together and make those decisions. One of us can put together board action items. But whenever three or more of us get together, it has to be an open session, just as this is today. Every board action item that is prepared, including the one that we're talking about related to changing our rules related to political flags is either prepared by staff, prepared by a single director, or prepared by two directors. There's never any conversation about these things until we come to this meeting. I think that's important for you to internalize. There's been some suggestion that there's a lot of behind the scenes, behind the curtain information that goes on, that we make up our mind, that we put all this together. It just isn't the case, not on my board, not on this board. That's not how we operate. There are also a number of codes, the Corporations Code, the Business and Professional Code, the Civil Code, the California Code of Civil Procedures, that we all have to follow. We are students of the codes. We are trained in a week-long orientation session, and we are in continuous consultation with our counsel, Vernon Wells, to help us maneuver through all the codes and make sure that our actions are all done appropriately. HOA law is administered by the California Bureau of Real Estate, and the Office of Attorney General is available to accept any complaints about us, and there have been threats about that also. So be sure you have a look at what they all have to say. We're here to follow the rules, to follow the law, and they are happy to do that for you. Please remember that we're a group of people who own property together. Those are our community properties, and we own separate interest properties as individuals. And there are rules that go along with all of that. So this is all of our stuff. This is our property, and this is what we're here to talk about. The thing I'd like to remind you of in my opening remarks is our board's core values, purpose, and vision. This board has taken the time during our orientation last May to set out our core values and our purpose and our vision for Canyon Lake. We did this because in my experience in leading groups like this, it's best to get these kind of things nailed down before you start making decisions. And Harmony, I'm hoping that you can bring that up.
Yes.
Thank you. The guiding principles that we have that dictate our behavior and decision-making are rooted in our core values. Those core values include that we are family-oriented. We create a culture to match a wide-ranging demographics. We maintain high-quality standards, support strong financials for stability, enhance the unique identity of our organization, accept and open to diversity, treat everyone with respect, and seek continuous improvement to enhance our services and community. Those are our values. Our purpose and why we exist is rooted in our articles of incorporation and our CC&Rs. These are things that we can't change. These are things that we are instructed to follow. Through exceptional community service and business process, we will preserve and enhance the peaceful enjoyment of our property, protect property values, preserve and protect the common owned facilities, promote the recreation, benefit, and enjoyment of the homeowners, enhance the quality of life and sense of community. This is what we've set out. These are our principles. This is how we make our decisions as we talk in front of you and listen to what you say to us. Our vision for Canyon Lake, and this is this board's vision. Every board has its own vision, but this board's vision for this year has been through stability and collaborative leadership and management. We will aspire to become one united, sought after resort-style community for permanent residents that respects and meets the expectations of a diverse membership through enhanced amenities and increased property values. You know, when you look at this set, and we're going to move on to our business here in just a moment, but when you look at this set of principles, the things that really stand out that apply to this evening's conversation have to do with diversity of opinion and respect. It has to do with enhancing the peaceful enjoyment of our community. It has to do with enhancing the quality of life and sense of community, and the notion that we respect and meet the expectations of a diverse membership. And that's quite a balancing act, but that's what our intention is. This evening we have two items on our agenda. One of them is the emergency rule change related to signs, flags, and banners, and the other is a member comment on non-personnel issues, and that's on the property that you own or anything else that you would like to comment on. We'll be dealing with the emergency rule change first, and we'll have a opportunity for the board members to comment on what we have heard, what we have received so far. We will have an opportunity for your comments, and then followed by board discussion and a decision on what we're going to do. As far as the actual rule change that we're looking at, and this is the board action item that was prepared and has been posted and distributed. I want to read that to you, and I'd like to start out with this. This is my board action item. I wrote this. I did not have a joint conversation with my fellow directors about this, though I did talk to them individually about various aspects of it. Quite frankly, I don't know how they're going to respond to this. That's what we're doing here tonight. We have received, and I said that I'm very happy to have received many, many comments, and I'm sure they are too, that relate to this. And in my mind, we have our work cut out for it to decide how we're going to handle this. The controversy related to the number, location, and content of political signs, flags, posters, and banners has been an issue in Canyon Lake for many years. It was particularly prominent this last election cycle. Strong opinions continue to be sent to the board by email and were expressed at the meeting last February 9th on both sides of the issue. And they include a wide-ranging opinions on the duration of permissible display, their location on golf carts, their content, restrictions on display of the American flag. And I want to point out, and I wrote here, restrictions on the display of the American flag is not an issue. In fact, it's protected by law. So none of this conversation has to do with displaying our American flag. Our current practice, the decision to change rules, started with an open discussion at the board meeting on February 9th. The board accepted and the diversity of opinions and expressed and has received over 150 emails and comments. I've decided to move forward. I actually wrote in the board action item that the board decided, but that wasn't correct. I decided to do this as your president and as the sponsor of this rule change, to move forward in 2 steps. My first was to recommend to my board that we enact emergency rule changes that, in my mind, appear to widely be accepted. And these are modifications to the rules we have that are clarifications. When enacted, if enacted, they would become effective immediately, and they would remain in place for 120 days or until they were made permanent, or unless they were made permanent by our normal process. Other changes I wrote are currently under review and may be presented at a later time, and I'll also say they may not be presented at a later time. The whole notion of effecting an emergency change, may I say, when you look at the Davis-Sterling law, can be done in private session, and it's really up to the board to make its decision on when they want to act and then announce it. And we decided that we didn't want to do that we wanted to have a conversation with the entire community before we took that step. We believe that this community is protected by the provision that is only good for 120 days. After 120 days, it goes away, unless we convince you through the normal process that this is the right thing to do. So my recommendation is to enact the emergency rule change related to clarifying the rules that applies to the signs, posters, flags, and banners, defining the term political signs, including their placement on watercraft, and illustrating the term obscene material or fighting words as written on the attached document. And what we have prepared here, and we're now posting on the screen, and what I hope that our conversation in this part of our agenda can focus on, is these changes to the rules, and the rules are listed there that we're talking about changes at the rules that I am suggesting to the board. The first thing that we need to confirm is that we will make this an emergency rule. It can be done as a 28-day rule, but my recommendation is it be an emergency rule followed up by a permanent rule in the future. It clarifies that this rule, the G4.5 series, applies to signs, posters, flags, and banners. It defines what a political sign is, used to support or oppose a past, present, or aspiring politician, candidate, or ballot measure, And I have I've read and understand that we need to make sure that this clarifies that this has to do with a pending election. It's not about everything. It's about an upcoming election. The whole part of this is to be able to put in place for signs all of the, as they are defined here, the limitations we have on when these signs can be placed in our community setback. In the spirit of signs being posted in the community setback on vehicles, I am suggesting that we add watercraft, and we add painted or wrapped on vehicles, on golf carts, watercraft, or trailers. And this is just expanding what a vehicle is. That's what that intention is. You may agree or disagree, I understand, but that's what that's about. And that applies both to political signs for general elections and our CLPOA election signs. The last change that is suggested is to add some clarification and some additional meaning to the GR 4.6 that we put in place earlier last year, meaning that it's our intention to take words and signs and messages that are obscene material or fighting words that are implied, and that includes that, and then take out as those terms are defined in law, and add such as the ones in the Carlin 7 dirty words. I just want to clarify that the reason that we use obscene material and fighting words as those terms are defined in law is because that was at the suggestion of our legal counsel. Obscene material is clearly defined in the law, as are fighting words are clearly defined in the law, and there is some subjectivity into their application, and we wanted to add some actual words to that. Didn't want to write them in this rule, chose to write them in this way. So that's my proposal to the board. And what I'd like to do now is to have each of the directors comment on their reactions to my recommendation. I'm sorry to say this again, but I want to say it again. We have not had a chance to talk about this because under the law, we can't. So I would like to have their reactions, any questions that they have for me or questions that they would like to ask, and what more they might hope to hear from our members and our community this evening as a part of this meeting. As much as we would have liked to have had our legal counsel present and to be able to answer questions, and we really don't get to do that. All of the communication that we have with legal counsel has to occur in our executive session. It's part of our legal manners, and it's so that we can protect our client, our attorney-client privilege. That was even made more complicated by the fact that a number of the things that we received were posted threatened litigation. So that kind of throws it into a whole different area. But we can't have the lawyers here. But we are very well aware of their counsel, and we will be taking that into consideration. So, directors, who would like to go first with your reactions and questions and what you'd like to hear?
I guess I'll go first since
Thank you,
nobody
Jeannie.
else is responding. Okay, I do have a question under 4.5A under the proposed language. Could you explain, by past, do you mean incumbent, or is that present would be incumbent? I don't understand the use of the word past.
I wrote that with the idea that we'd be thinking about people that had already been through an election. So that would apply to President Trump. It would apply to Secretary of State Clinton. That would apply to anybody in the past that had gone through, had been a candidate or on the ballot measure. As I mentioned, I think we may want to clarify that has to do with an election. But that's my answer to your question.
Okay, yeah, that was the purpose of my question, is because I'll go through all of my statements here first, and then we'll hear from the other directors and then go through questions. So I believe that Canyon Lake is a community consisting of many parts. Some are independents, some are members of the Green Party, some are Republicans, Democrats, conservatives, liberals, right-leaning, left-leaning, etc. However, I truly believe that we are one party, the party of Canyon Lake. And I don't mean going out there on the lake and having a good old party. I mean that we are all one community. I believe that we need a return of common decency by showing courtesy to all of the people that reside in our community while politely respecting the views of others. I believe that political signs should be used to support or oppose any candidate or measure on a federal, state, county, or local ballot. For example, vote no on X for president or vote yes on a measure M, that kind of thing. I believe that political signs should not be posted prior to 90 days before an election and removed within 10 days following the election. I believe that the definition of signs should not include flags and banners unless those flags and banners support or not support the people on the current ballot, whether it be federal, state, county, local. I do believe that there should be some standards for what is displayed, such as size, materials, etc. If a member wants to proclaim that X was the best president or that Z was the worst governor ever, or to remind members to vote for a particular party, that is their right. If a member wants to proclaim that my dog's life matters, that is, so be it. That is also their right. However, if the flags, banners, etc. display what has been defined as a political message, they must be removed within the time specified above. I do agree that flags, banners, and posters should not display or include any profanity. And I'm not just talking about obscenity and fighting words. I'm talking about profanity, whether expressly stated or implied. By implied, I mean the use of symbols, missing letters, a fist with the middle finger partially raised, etc. I understand that society has evolved to the point that the use of certain words has become much more acceptable. But I believe that in the interest of our entire family-oriented community, they should not be allowed. I believe that if someone wants to paint or wrap a vehicle, golf cart, watercraft, or trailers, they should be allowed to. I don't support that portion of this revision at all. When I owned a local business, I had a catering truck wrapped with our specials. I was told by the city that I could not do so as we could not advertise. I know how this felt to be told that I could not do something that I had paid to have done. If someone wants to pay to have their vehicle professionally wrapped to proclaim a message that they believe in, then they should be able to. Thank you.
Thank you, Jeannie. Appreciate all those comments. I'm looking down because I'm writing everything that you said. Okay, who wants to go next?
What Jeannie had proposed there, I'm actually in agreement with that. And unless I missed something, but I definitely would side with what Jeannie had spoken out. The only other thing that I had seen is there was some question whether this really an emergency meeting or this could be changed into a 28-day reading. So those are my only comments, but I think Jeannie articulated my feelings very, very well. Thank you.
So Jim, do you have a position on whether you think this should be an emergency rule or a 28-day rule, go through the normal process?
You know, from the comments that I have seen, I think that we would probably be better served in a 28-day rule rather than do it now. We've only got 100, you take 100 days and take 28 off of that. I guess my feeling is that we've been this way now for several months and, you know, just go a normal channel.
Okay, thank you, Jim. Who's next?
Well, I'll go, Chris. I agree with Jim. I question whether there's enough urgency in this matter to warrant imposing a rule on an emergency basis. I think I'd like to see a 28-day reading. I know we're going to have plenty of discussion tonight, but I'd also like to see member input over the next 28 days, and I'd like to see us address this in a regular session board meeting for final approval or not. In regards to Jeannie's comments, I agreed with most of them. I think she did a good job of explaining her position. And but I want to focus on the fact that we're not talking tonight, and we're not talking about this rule change at this point. about anything other than what is on the screen before you right now, those particular items. Um, Posters, flags, definition, political signs, uh, painted or wrapped, adding watercrafts. I think adding watercrafts makes a lot of sense. I think that was probably an oversight years ago when this rule was established. Um, so I want to focus on those things and those alone for this portion of our discussion tonight. I also want to register some concern and question about those 7 dirty words. Uh, I I think Jeannie's definition of obscene language and foul language would be suitable for me. I don't know how legal would address that or accept it, but I don't know that we need to go to that depth to identify Carlin's 7 dirty words. Um, I got to think there's hundreds of words out there that would be offensive to a lot of people, and probably a lot of words out there that we don't even know. I don't even know. So I would hate to just confine it to that. So those are my thoughts. But I also want to say thank you to Chris for taking the initiative to write this up and put this forward. He's correct. There was no discussion, and while these are his thoughts, he's brought it forward for all of us, and we should be thankful for that, so we can discuss it and hopefully settle on something that's suitable for everybody. Thank you.
Thank you, Joe. Tom?
Thank you, Chris. I think for all, it's important to understand that there really are 2 separate things that we address in this entire conversation. The first being what is presented here tonight, and the things that I'll call, more, I think, in the community area or the common areas. And that's what these common area rules are trying to address. Those things that happen in the places that, as Chris said at the beginning, we all own together. We share the streets, we share the parks, everywhere that any member can go to. We share that property together, and the rules that are being presented here are only about those particular areas. The other separate interest, which is every member's private area, is their own private property. And while it is protected with David Sterling under Civil Codes 4705 for the American flag and 4710 for other types of non-commercial signs and banners, there are still things that the association is entitled to do in the form of either limitations, restrictions, etc. We can't absolutely prohibit things, but we could put timeframes on them, and that's not in opposition to that particular section of the code, in my opinion. So putting together something that advances on what we can do in the separate interest is not addressed tonight, but probably something that's going to need to get addressed in addition to this. We do live in a community, and the community spirit of being one and everybody getting along is, I think, what is also important here. Whether somebody aligns themselves with a political party is not a factor here. If it was, then this meeting wouldn't even need to happen, because I think it's pretty apparent that we have a dominant party that is registered in this community, but that doesn't mean that that's the only way that we see things. We have members of all types and all sizes and all beliefs, and we support them all equally. And everyone's entitled to their opinion and their party affiliation. And my hope would be that in expression of who you support, that it is a supportive role and a supportive type of a comment in all of the presentations in the form of things like flags and banners, and it not get so attacking. And I think in recent time, it seems like some of that has come more to the surface, where there seems to be more attacking to the other side as opposed to just supporting your own side. So I'm not at all opposed to people who say I support President Reagan a long time ago. But if you want to attack somebody else, you start to venture into I think a different world, and that's the part that we're trying to address here with these types of understandings with the POA. For those that have threatened and talk about things like their rights and entitlements and lawsuits, I just gonna refer back to many things that you probably already know. You know, we don't allow motorcycles inside of Canyon Lake. We close parks at times that we want to close them, or open them at times we want to open them. We have rules about, you know, junk cars and such being stored in your driveways. So while living in the public sector or living in cities, you know, neighboring cities, Menifee, Lake Elsinore, you may have the opportunity to do some of the things in a city environment where there is not an HOA. But when you join into this HOA, you also abide by the rules and the governing that this particular body does, not a political entity, but a private entity. And again, mutual respect for your neighbors. The guidelines and the rules established for this HOA are for the betterment of all and the protection of all. So our job is to help support that goal and to make it so that we can all live together in harmony, still feeling that we can express ourselves in a kind and positive manner, but respecting all of our neighbors and not doing things that make them feel uncomfortable about living here in Canyon Lake. And that, unfortunately, has also been some of what we've heard about. I think that's it for me right now. I think the rule is probably, as others have said, not necessarily an emergency, but probably a 28-day read is what makes sense here. And we'll move forward with the future discussion tonight of other members' comments, and then we can talk again some more. And we probably still are going to need to come back to this and address how we deal with separate interest property and what we can do there.
Okay, thank you very much, Tom. Great set of comments. You know, there's just one thing I want to say, and this is, again, my personal opinion. I was very much aware of the amount of discord and, honestly, fear that we heard about both in the emails and it was at the open testimony that we had on February 9th, that led me to think that this needed an emergency rule. I just wanted to say that so that you would know that that's why I did that. Again, I brought it to the open, and you've now heard the directors each talk about whether they think that's important or not, and I'll let you draw your conclusions from that. But that's the reason that I did that, is I wanted to respect and honor our members who felt that this was an extraordinary issue that had to be dealt with. We're 5 people that make decisions, and you elected us, and the way the rules are set up, it's our responsibility to act on behalf of the members, and that's exactly what we're doing right now. So with that, I'd like to move on to comments from the community, member comments. By the way, as always, you have 3 minutes to make your comment. We'd appreciate it if you would stay on time. Harmony will call you out, call your name out to make your presentation in the order that she receives them. And we have an open agenda. We have time to hear from all of you, and looking forward to that. I would say that we have this wonderful record of opinion in email, and it's very extensive. It's a whole lot more than you can say in 3 minutes. So that if you don't feel that you need to go over all of that again, that's fine. If you'd like to make comments, that's fine. I just wanted you to say that that is all in the record, and it's all stored away and will continue to be considered. Okay, Harmony, who's first?
Yes, sir. We just wanted to remind everyone that you are supposed to be a member if you're going to speak, and we'd ask you to state your name and your track and lot. If you're having any issues raising your hand, please let us know. Send us a message. There's a tutorial on our website as well that we can share in our comments. I don't have any hands raised yet, but we have Art Femister who messaged. If you can go, Art.
Okay.
You can hear me okay?
Yes.
I can hear you.
Yes. First, thank you for all the thoughtful comments. I thought that was great. I was much calmer now hearing from the other board members on this. I'm the one that
Art,
struggled.
could you please give us your track and lot?
Oh, I'm sorry. I apologize, Chris. Sorry for that. I took the card out. 3719315 Art Femister. So I put a lot of this on Facebook, stirred a lot of this up, and I did make a promise I wouldn't file a complaint with the Attorney General's office if this went to an emergency rule. And my concern, Chris, on that, we're not going to debate that, but the actual quote is, if the board determines that immediate rule change is required to be addressed an imminent threat to public health or safety or imminent risk of substantial economic loss to the association, it may issue an emergency rule. I don't see that being the case. You're entitled to your opinion, but if it went forward with that, I would. Secondly, I've asked on that, David Sterling Act also states associations cannot prohibit signs, posters, flags, or banners in a known and separate interest in political signs inside there. California Civil Code 4710, as Tom Nathan said. So that's what got me stirred up, quite honestly, on you. So let me move forward here. People talked about feeling threatened. Okay, on the Facebook, there was a lot of great feedback from that on those posts. One person was asked, we're not going to say names, I promise you that, why does it scare, why does a Trump flag hurt you? Answer from one of the people who were on the phone call on Tuesday night. He was an angry bigot, white supremacist, might as well have a KK flag up. That's their opinion. They're welcome to it, and I respect that, and I defended that when I was in the military. Absolutely. But to sit here and say, this is what it comes down to. It's not that it's trashy, it looks bad. The other person, multiple people said on Tuesday night, when I drive into the community, I'm embarrassed, I'm intimidated. Jill and I, my wife, went out 2 hours ago. We drove the entire community, and we counted the number of flags on the major roads, starting from the front gate to the east gate, down Vacation Drive, all the way down Longhorn and Big Range. Those are the streets you must go on to get to your house, so you would have to pass them. How many people out there, what do you think? I know you can't answer, but just how many flags do you think there were out there? Trump flags only. 8, a total of 8. There was 1 on Canyon Lake Drive South, 5 on Canyon Lake Drive North, 2 on Vacation, none on Longhorn, none on Big Range. This is all talking about 8 Trump flags on the major part. So saying this is an imminent threat, people feel threatened. You would make it sound like every other house has a sign out there saying, we're going to kill you Democrats. There were 8 Trump flags up, and that's what this is about. So you know the rest of my point on that. I'll let you go. Again, I appreciate all the board members' thoughtful comments. I feel a lot more calmer hearing that. I think a 28-day rule, but an advisory vote would be best in my opinion. So thank you for your time. Have a good night, everybody.
Thank you, Art. Appreciate your comments. Who's next?
Sorry. Okay, next we have Mike Harris.
Okay, Mike?
All right, he might come back to us. Next, we can have Kathy Blakemore. Oh, he has no mic. So yes, Kathy Blakemore, please.
All right, good evening, everybody. Kathy Blakemore, 3846226. I'm a proud member, been here, in Canyon Lake for many, many years. I'm Vic and Carolyn Knight's daughter. And this, as I see it, I did write an email to you and express my concerns. This to me is about common decency and respect, as was mentioned in a couple of the board members' comments, and I completely and totally agree with that. This is a family community, and this is huge. The words that are on these flags, many of them, and I know Art mentioned going around and seeing 8 Trump flags. I'm aware that there's been a lot of them that have been taken down, and when the boat parade and the golf cart parades and all these events are turned into rallies, there's been some pretty, you talk about fighting words, there's been some words that are on those flags that do not promote community and decency. And I do think that because I did, there was a concern about a flag that was in my cove, and it had the BS all the way out. So it said bullshit on it. And I called the POA and I said, I'm concerned, there's a flag that's hanging and it says bullshit. And I was told, oh, that's not one of the fighting words. So I think we really do. I know that the gentleman, I don't know what your name is, Joe, you mentioned that, you don't think we need to be specific about words. I would say that I would recommend that we consider that. And because there's children in our community. I am a middle school teacher, and I'm concerned about family-friendly community that I love and have loved ever since I've lived here my whole life. So I thank you for your time, and I really support this rule. And I know that one of the gentlemen said, well, we've been this way for so long, so there isn't an emergency rule necessary. It's like, how long because those rules have not been followed, and taking these signs down after the political season, we've been subjected to this for quite some time. So I think I understand that you're not in support of an emergency rule, but it's been enough, and we need to come back to the community decency and respect. Thank you.
Thank you, Kathy. Harmony, who's next?
Next we have Valerie Reeves.
Hi. I don't know if you can, I don't know what you can see. Can you see me?
No, but we can hear you.
Okay. I don't know why my camera thing's not working, but Valerie Reeves Norris now, and I am at 3831 track. So I've been reading all the things, and I tend to want things fair and equal. And I understand both sides. And I think we do have rules that say we can't have the profanity. I think Jeannie said it quite right. And I think that it is treading on people's, I don't know what word you want to use at this point, but I think our ability to have a flag out that has a Snoopy, or I love Reagan, or I love the Beatles, or I love Trump, or I love Biden, or whoever we love, I think as long as that's where it's supposed to be on our property and we're following the rules, it's not hurting anyone. There's flags I see that, and I know most people that I talk to say the same thing. In fact, I don't know anyone except for one person said something to me here in the lake that doesn't say, yes, if I see something I don't like, we just walk past it. If we see something with like ragtag material hanging, then of course we don't like that, because that does take our property values down. But following the rules and using the sizes that we're allowed to, I think that that's what we need to be focusing on. Everyone keeps focusing on the bad words, but we do have that in place. That now just becomes a bigger chore for our rules and regs people, or I don't know if that's the community patrol that goes by and sees that, or who that actually would be. And if they give them a letter, I think maybe people need to know, like, are they going to get a letter? Is it going to be just taken down? Maybe some of that information could go forward. That would help. And I think basically just being able to show what we like, whether it's an Easter flag. I know I have a neighbor not far from me that has a giant cross all lit up all the time. I'm not offended by it, but maybe somebody else might be. But if so, they keep it to themselves. So I think the biggest thing here, and I think the most common sense thing here, is stop focusing on what we have just gone through as a country. And if we do like Trump or don't like Trump, let's just all agree, like you said, to get together, be a community, and respect each other. And that's pretty much my take on it.
Thank you, Valerie. I
right.
appreciate your comments. I just want to say that Community Patrol is responsible to patrol all of our common areas, and Planning and Compliance is responsible to inspect and maintain the appearance of the community in our separate interest properties. So that's how that splits out. Okay, who's next?
Thank you.
Next, I believe we might have someone under P. Swift. You can unmute and state your name and track and lot.
Hi, I did not put myself on to speak, but I will. Yes, 3720. And I would like to speak about.
Excuse me, I missed your name. Could I have your name, please?
Yes, Shelley Swift.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, I've done some research, and it is the issue that we all commonly, privately, which is kind of like an oxymoron, commonly privately own sections of this community. And I believe that is the issue. Now, I've been involved with political campaigns in the past with my union and other things on committees, and I understand one thing. When there was a sponsorship of any candidate running, there are political candidate laws. And therefore, if I do not want to sponsor a particular candidate and there is a campaign on the street or the property that I own, yes, I own it with other people, but I do not want to pay for that campaign. I do not want to participate in that campaign. In an HOA or POA, that is my right to not have to do that. That is different than freedom of speech. Freedom of speech is separate interest property. So this is where the crux of the deal is. The difference between living in an HOA or a POA, and Tom said that correctly, I appreciate that there is a difference. And I don't believe that all the community members understand that difference. That we are not trying to take someone's right away, but it is, I'm an educator. So in the classroom, I am forced to, or not forced to, but I am supposed to not have a captive audience. Well, we have a captive audience in our community because we all own that shared community property. So the captive audience in my classroom or in a school property or government property, we cannot propose a certain candidate. We're not allowed to do that. It's the same thing in a community that's shared, not to mention the quality of life that I believe has suffered and the cultural erosion in Canyon Lake. It is not one that feels diverse. It feels divisive, and that is where the problem lies. Forget about the vulgar language, which is not acceptable in family environments, but the subtle image, if an intimidation is subtle, it still exists. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Shelley. Appreciate your comments. Who's next?
Next, do we have Tim Hensel?
Yeah, how you guys doing?
Hi.
Thank you for holding this meeting tonight. It's, obviously we all saw a lot on Facebook.
Could we have your name and tracking lot, please, for the record?
Tim Hensel, 3716626.
Thank you.
You're welcome. So I'm the new guy in the block. I've been here about 4 months. Part of the draw for me coming from another conservative community down here was like-minded people. And what I mean by that is not necessarily the politics of it, but people that enjoy their property, enjoy their rights, take care of their property, pride of home ownership, but all the things that go along with that. So, which is still, obviously a big part of what we have here in Canyon Lake. But I guess really my question is, and I want to ask you a question. So what you're proposing is if I want to fly a flag on my property, for example, the Recall Gavin Newsom campaign that's going on, which I largely support, by the way, am I allowed to fly that flag, or would your new rule prohibit me from doing that?
Well, as you just to answer your question, as you can see on the screen, this has to do with signs that are in the community setback. There's a portion of your property at the front that's not really your property. Your property line stops and there's a community setback before you get to the curb. And that's what this applies to. So it doesn't apply to what's called the separate interest property.
So then, I guess that begs the next question. So then, and I agree, there shouldn't be vulgarity on flags or signs or whatever. This is a community of, young kids too. Mm-hmm. So nobody really wants to see that. And I'm in favor of that as well. But so then what you're saying to me is that on my property, just so I'm clear, because I read, the rule change or proposed rule change, but I didn't clearly understand it. I could still fly any flag that I want. within reason. In other words, it doesn't have vulgarity because I don't agree with that. But if I wanted to fly a certain flag on my property that, let's say I wanted to endorse George Bush, I could do that if it's on my property, not in that, I guess, in the forward part, correct?
If you look, that is correct. That's where we are right now. And as Tom mentioned, that's something that still needs to be considered. But for right now, for this set of rule changes, what you're saying is correct.
Okay. So what I think probably needs to be clarified is I think there's a lot of misunderstanding of what it was that you proposed. And I'm not in disagreement with that. I think I'm in agreement with a lot of the speakers tonight that over the course of the last 4 years, 5 years, and it started really 5 years ago, there became a political debate, and now it's gotten bigger, and it's manifested into, we can't have civil conversations, and sometimes flags bring that to the forefront. So anyway, that's my time. I appreciate the clarification, and thank you.
Thank you very much, Tim. Appreciate your comments. Harmony, who's next?
We have no other hands raised at the moment or emails to speak. If someone would like to raise their hand or, oh, okay, now we do. All right, can I have the Kastners? If you could unmute.
Oh, there we are.
Yeah.
You see this? Honestly, on an unbiased
Name and
situation,
track, please.
I don't know, Little Harbor.
That doesn't work. I need to have your name and track.
I don't have my POA card, so I can't tell you the track, but this is speaking for all Little Harbor.
Can I have
Yes,
your
sir.
full name, please?
Robert Kastner.
Thank you, Robert. Okay, and then just because you can't give me a track and lot, can you confirm that you're a member of the association and not a renter?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir, owner.
I appreciate that very much. Please go ahead.
So basically the way I see it is, a flag, as long as it's going to be black and white, everybody's going to see something a different way, either other, as long as it's not a derogatory flag, because in front of mine is the red, white, and blue. So any other way to put it, basically, I just got put inside of this chat right now, and I heard you guys didn't want to put up.
We lose them.
Robert, are you still there?
We lost them.
Okay, we lost him. Robert will have to check back in with us. Let's go on to the next one, Harmony.
Okay, Marha Kid.
Hi, everybody. Can you hear me good?
Yes.
I
Okay.
can hear you, Martha.
How are you? A couple things that were brought up.
I'm sorry, Mark. Just like everybody else, everybody knows.
Oh, I'm sorry. Marha Kid, 3778201. So I'm going to read what I kind of wrote down. But I just want to, my background, I've been here 31 years. I love the community. I love the kids. So a lot of this, my attitude comes from the perspective of our kids in the community. So when we talk about common grounds, nobody's worked harder than I have with different communities within the community of kids. I'm fighting tooth and nail for the pump track. But protecting kids, I do not want to see a political banter down there of golf carts and flags and kids that have parents and grandparents that feel differently politically. That is not fair to our kids. So this is really important to me as far as our common grounds, as far as a respect to our neighbors. So now I'm going to read what I wrote tonight. So, hello, board members. Thank you for addressing this major concern for many in the community. My mother-in-law used to say, KISS. Keep it simple, stupid. but I can agree with keeping it that way, even though I don't say stupid. Having been on the rules committee, we've had political signage here forever. We just now need to modify the existing rules. I think the surprise for me was the continuation of all the political signs for so long. No one is taking your right away. There are existing rules that just need to be updated. In the last few years, and like I said, I've been here 31 years, I've seen division, animosity, and a different energy in the lake amongst friends and neighbors. I know people who have been intimidated, they've been afraid, and they've been threatened. I've known people that have moved out of Canyon Lake, and I know people that won't move into Canyon Lake because of all the political banter. I'm happy to say I'm an independent in this community of 4,800 homes. Funny to hear that this is Trump Town, as it's not. It's actually a beautiful bit of paradise where each member matters exactly the same. We have the same rules, we have the same privileges, and we go exactly by the same rights and rules. No one rules in Canyon Lake. We all do. I remember the good old days. You would come through the front gates and everyone felt they were coming home. Some were safe, some were peaceful, and some were absolutely beautiful. This is the feeling that every single homeowner is entitled to. I feel that by limiting the political and off-color rhetoric, you will be addressing the best interest of the community as a whole. I thank you for having this meeting tonight. Tom, I appreciate what you have said. I was on the Rules Committee. I'm not surprised that we need to update this. I don't like the division. There is no need for it. So thank you again.
Thank you, Marga. Appreciate your comments.
Thank
Harmony,
you.
who's next?
Renee?
Hello, Renee Griffiths, 3778154. So thank you for having this meeting. I'll keep mine hopefully real quick. I do agree with Jeannie, so I appreciated hearing her words, since for me at least it was spot on. I don't think we need to go to the extreme of saying you cannot paint or wrap your golf carts. If you want to spend the money, which as a financial planner I think is a waste of money to do that, that's your right to do it. And if you want to fly a flag on your golf cart that says I love Trump or I love Biden, that's your right to do it. I think I respectfully disagree with Marha on one area, and if it happens, it's unfortunate, and this is where I hope it wouldn't. But if you have golf carts of parents side by side, and one says Biden and one says Trump, I think the beauty that kids need to see today that they're not seeing is those parents getting along. But if that, and that's what we need. Unfortunately, it shouldn't be Trump side, Biden side, left side, right side. But back in the day, people just got along. It wasn't the all in all be all. There's people that are on my street that supported Biden. They had their Biden flags. I have my Trump flag. I have my Trump flag ripped down. I put up a new one, but we all still get along and we chat, because that's not something that we chat about. There's more to the world than just that. So I was more concerned that this could become a very slippery slope, especially when you start adding more restrictions. I didn't know what Carlin's 7 dirty words were. I looked at them. I didn't like them, but I'm glad it addresses at least the flags that say no more bullshit, because I don't want kids seeing that. Quite frankly, I don't want my dad seeing that, because he would be offended. So I don't know how you guys want to direct, because I heard someone mention there's words we don't even know about that are offensive and obscene. So, that's one place to start, but, I think there's going to be some more assistance on that. So I just wanted to make that clear. Also, comments that Art made, I thought those were spot on as well. So I'm not going to reiterate what he said because it was perfect. And thank you for the time.
Okay, thank you, Renee. Appreciate your comments. Who's next, Charlene?
Someone under Joe?
Yes, Joe Anderson, 3716347. On the back of my car, I have a sticker that says F cancer. I've lost a family member to it. I've lost friends to it. I've seen people have really bad battles with it. To be able to have that sticker on my car means a lot to me. Is it with this being passed, I'm not going to be able to come into the lake anymore. My friends and family aren't going to be able to come to the lake anymore for a simple sticker that says F cancer. You know, that's wrong. This is what we battle that all the time, and it's a thing of glory that we've had friends that have gotten past cancer and they've survived cancer, and they put that sticker on their car, or they put it on a flag or a T-shirt, and this is going to be stopped. As far as language, I have little kids. I've taught them. There's good times to use words. There's bad times to use words. As an adult and a parent, that's what you're supposed to do: is teach your kids exactly when the right time, the wrong time is to use it. If you don't want them using it, tell them, don't use it. You know, this is our freedom and our right. If this is such a big deal, then our community should be voting on this. This should be up to the board members. It should be a vote. Put it to a vote. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Joe. Appreciate your comments. Who do we have next?
We have Jason.
Hi, everybody. Can you hear me?
Yes.
We can hear you, Jason.
Lot 3804008. So I wanted to.
I'm sorry, Jason, I didn't catch your last name. Could you repeat it, please?
Turner.
Thank you,
like
Jason.
Ted, like Ted.
Okay.
I wanted to thank everybody for all the thoughtfulness around this. I know the board has been addressing this for some time. So that was my first comment, was just to kind of remind everybody that this is not an issue that started on February 7th to then have potentially a 128-day or 28-day discussion. This was raised, I believe, June of last year. So we have had a lot of discussion around this and a lot of thought around it. This is not something that's just been brought up. I just wanted to note that. The second is around, I understand the kind of bifurcation between shared areas and private property. So the GR resolutions, everything that we're looking now is shared properties. And hopefully we can talk about general property. And I think we're having a discussion around, in general, political speech. It's my view that signs are political signs, flags are symbols and emblems. So the red, white, and blue, military, state flags, or safety flags, or sports flags are flags. Everything else is a sign, whether it's a piece of cloth, piece of paper. Those are all signs that are in political in nature. So I just want to, I think that we should be talking about time, so time frames, the size of these signs, and then the language that goes on them. So today it seems like we're talking about GR, which is the community setbacks and shared areas. So in reality, I don't know if anyone has an answer to this. What political signs, do we know how many political signs are in setback areas in the community in general? I mean, is this even an issue right now?
I don't have an answer for you, Jason.
Is it reasonable to assume that most of the signs and flags that we're talking about are on personal property, not the setback areas?
Not when it's related to golf carts. Golf carts are throughout the community, and the way the rules are read right now, flags on golf carts are an issue.
I appreciate that, Chris. So that actually brings me to my second point. I had brought this up back in June, and in that we're raising on GR 45A8, this is still within the GR rules. So when we're talking about watercraft, golf carts, and vehicles, it was previously brought up by a board member that the intention, although I don't read it that way, but the intention was that this is for parked. So a parked watercraft, a parked golf cart, a parked trailer. Therefore, if it starts driving on the water or on the streets, it's no longer GR, it's your personal property. So in effect, if you have a flag or a sign on a golf cart or a boat that is moving, which most do, none of this addresses that. So my question to the board is whether this is an emergency or not. My assumption, and I can be proven wrong, is there's not many signs or flags on any of the setbacks in general. And this only addresses vehicles, golf carts, watercrafts, trailers that are parked only. That was the statement from the board months ago. So I don't
Okay, I do
think
need to have you wrap up, Jason.
this doesn't address moving golf carts and watercraft. I don't think is my question, correct?
Well, it's really, I can't answer the question. We're out of time. I appreciate your comment. I think you're raising a good question that we'll have to deal with. Okay, Harmony, who's next?
Not doing anything.
Bob Dyer.
Am I allowed to talk?
Bob, if you can unmute.
Oh,
There we go.
There you go.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Good, thank you. 3719-330. Been here since the beginning, in fact, from the beginning. Seen everything here in this community. I think everyone should be able to express their opinions as far as political, what they want to put up there. We should not use foul language. But again, we remember that all of us, your children, me, everybody, are subject to language that's on the television, on the news, few words. People not using the F word, but like a gentleman said, F cancer, where that strikes home for a lot of people. And in golf carts, they want to put stuff on, let them go ahead. If you don't like it, well, I guess maybe you don't belong here. I mean, in some places and communities, they can do things. Don't forget, we're in a gate. Just because we go across the gate doesn't mean you need to stop people's rights to free speech, free expression. Is the next thing going to be, you tell me I can't wear my shirt that's got someone's name on it, or a hat, or an expression of that type? Where does it stop? I can see the foul language, that, and there's no problem. And what the size of the signs and all this part of the bill are fine. I've been on committees. I've been on Lake Marine Committee every year, made some progress to the people. We did a lot of good. But that's just my opinion. And you're not going to hide words from children when they go to school. We've all gone to school. We all heard plenty of language before Mama even knew what, we already knew it. So anyways, that's my opinion, and let's just move on through this thing and hope it works out for everyone in the good. And it doesn't have to go any farther. You know, we don't want it to wind up in a court. Thank you. Goodbye.
Okay, Bob, thank you very much for your comments. Who's next, Harmony?
Helen Dyer.
Helen Dyer, 3719-330. I've been here since 1968. We've had our property here, so we've seen everything come and go. I've been on multiple committees here. I'm on one right now. What concerns me about this is we're going to start banning things. The foul language I agree with. And of course, who's to decide what is foul language? I don't think George Carlin is the ultimate chief judge of of what is a dirty word. But I do agree with that. What concerns me is the fact that what one person finds something they don't want to see today, tomorrow, who is going to say that, oh, I don't like this, or oh, I don't like that. Take down your cross. I don't like looking at your cross. Take this down. So that's what really concerns me. And as far as on your trailer, on your car, does that mean a bumper sticker can't be on your car? I can't have a political flag or a political sign in my window? And what if I have guests? My guests are going to come in. They have to take their bumper stickers off. That bothers me. So that's kind of where we are. That's where I am. Thank you for letting me speak.
Thank you very much, Ellen. Who's next, Harmony?
Allison.
Hi there, can you hear me okay?
Yes. You got
Hold
some
on one second. I have
feedback.
to turn off the.
Yeah, just
So
looking.
I'm Allison Turner, and I'm track 3804-008. I spoke at the last meeting, and I don't know if I need to sort of reiterate my thoughts again, but it seems like there's a misunderstanding of what people are asking for. What we're asking for is a limitation on the time period for political candidates to have to put up signs for political candidates in our community, and to limit the time to a normal amount of time, let's say 3 months before and a week after. The election is still over and there's still signs all over the community. So it's obviously a lot less, but they're still there. And it really is disrupting the look of the community, the peace of the community. And it's just, to have, I have neighbors that have 6 Trump signs, 3 of them say enough of the bullshit. It's just, it's too much. It doesn't look nice. It's embarrassing. It just doesn't make sense to a really beautiful community. It's really taking away from the community in a big, big way. And to say that people that feel like this is not, the way that this community should be and should look, to say that we don't belong here is really upsetting to me, because I feel like I don't belong. And I think that that's unfair, because it would be much better to have a diverse community here. So, and that's the exact feeling that I get when there's, 6 flags and enough of the bullshit all over people's yards. It's gotten to be too much, and it's really not the way this beautiful community should be, honestly. So the only thing that I think a lot of us are asking for is that the political candidate signs be limited in the time that they're allowed to be out, not taken away, but limited to the time, so that we can all get back to our peaceful community, limit the number of signs out there, and limit the size. So, I think that's all that's being asked for here, and it seems to be blowing up into all political speech. It's not like we're asking for every sign to come down. We're talking specifically about these political candidate signs. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Allison. Appreciate your comments. Who's next?
We don't have any other hands raised. If you did want to speak, can you send us a message or raise your hand at this time? Pamela, did you want to speak to the board?
Harmony, I think the Washleys would like to speak. I see them waving their hand.
Oh, okay, Joe Washley.
This is Dorothy Washley.
Oh, sorry, Dorothy.
3716-433. And I appreciate a lot of the comments tonight, but I wanted just to add a couple of points. First, I don't know of any cities that allow political signs and banners to be displayed all year long. Limiting the time to display the signs for national and statewide elections should be limited, just as we do for local elections. It seems to me the signs and banners detract from the uniqueness and the beauty of our area and devalue our properties. Secondly, Canyon Lake already has rules regarding offensive, vulgar, and antagonistic signs and banners. I think following these rules would show great respect for each other and help to build a unity in the community. So I would just like to say too that Marga really touched my heart by some of the things she said about ours being a great community, and this is a place that we should love to be and to accept each other, and that's what I would hope for. The other concern I have is that a lot of the signs are not in the setback. They're on the private property, and I think they should be limited also. So thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, Dorothy. Appreciate your comments. I appreciate everybody's comments, by the way. Sometimes I forget to say it, but I really do. So, Harmony, who's next?
Next is Mindy Smith.
Yeah, this is actually her husband because I'm using her computer, Bart Smith, 3846344. I just want to thank actually everybody on here for clarifying this this language a little better for me. I seem to have a better grasp of it after listening to this. The only real question I have left at this point is more of a theoretical one. Is I'm concerned that while it says political sign requirements is specific, it appears to be specifically related to an election or a person, it says candidate or ballot measure, or support or oppose a past or present or aspiring politician. Because the thing I'm concerned about is obviously freedom of speech, but some of the things that we see aren't just about those things. And I'm concerned, such as some of the flags that we have, the American flag, that's great. Some of them have a blue stripe on them. Some of them have a red stripe on them. There's a black American flag down the street. I'm not sure what that means. I haven't looked it up yet. It has no stars or stripes, so I'm not really 100% sure what that even means. I'm concerned that those types of things also have a political value to them as well. People do that, and they do look at those things. And I'm concerned that, you know, just because your flag has a specific color on it or doesn't necessarily mean that you're supporting one political person or another, but it does speak to what other people might think. And I'm concerned about that symbolism. I'm concerned that we wouldn't be able to express that symbolism if you support the fire department because you have a red flag on your flag or whatever. I'm just concerned about the limiting that support that we use those tools to, the "don't tread on me" flag for people who don't like certain things. Just different things like that. And that's my main concern, is I don't want to see this be spread or they're used the term political to start representing other things. That's my concern. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mark. Appreciate it. Who's next? Harmony?
There's someone under YM.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, so if you could speak a little louder.
Okay, this is Jahida Myers, track 3720127. And the reason why I'm speaking now is because I have, over the past few years, seen how the community has changed or become more divided due to the display of certain political signs. Now, there have been members of our community, and I know that the board doesn't have any kind of control over what goes on social media. However, there have been several members of the community that do create an atmosphere that spreads fear among several of our community members. And some of that fear stems of the fact that there are several, that some people are trying to make political decisions, or they're displaying their support for certain political views, their political views, which is okay. However, it is not, some people have said that it's only 20 people whining about these political signs and about all this, the division that is being spread throughout the community. It's not 20 people that are complaining about these political signs. I personally know of over 200 households in the community, okay? And that is, this is a decent percentage when you compare to the 4,000 households that we have in Canyon Lake. So 200 households are complaining that, hey, this is not right. We shouldn't have to be subjected to seeing these things, especially, the political signs and flags that display vulgar language and other things. But I'm not even going there. My main concern is that I really want the board to also take into consideration, maybe we might be the minority in the community. However, we are still here. We're still paying members in good standing, just like some other members of the community. And we really would like our voices heard when it comes to this particular issue. Another thing is, through social media and because of this particular issue, we have been seeing an uptick in threats from members of this community to people that oppose having to put up with seeing a Trump parade or boats flying flags that said, F Biden, or golf carts that have, those kind of flags, which is the new one now. I saw him popping up after Biden, the president won the election. So, you know, some people threaten, okay, with civil war, okay? Somebody said, and I quote, "You take away my flag, I'm putting up 100 more. You take away my flag, the civil war that everyone has been looking for, maybe starting right here in Canyon Lake." So if those are not fighting words, I don't know what they will be. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Appreciate your comments. How many?
We have someone under Coach Val.
Yes, my name is Valerie Rodholm, 3831, lot 293. I just also want to share with everyone that I have been a homeowner here for over 30 years, approximately 30 and a half years. I have been a very proud homeowner here in Canyon Lake. I am a teacher in Corona Norco, and I'm proud to share that I live in Canyon Lake. However, that's since changed. I'm not proud to live in Canyon Lake. In fact, as soon as I retire, I'm going to be moving for other reasons, for lots of other reasons, mostly my grandkids. But anyway, my concern is during the election runoff, I had 3 signs, my personal signs that were on my property. I had 3 signs stolen off of my property. I also, for many months before that, was in fear of flying a flag because my husband thought that our tires would get slashed. We thought our house would be destroyed, have eggs thrown at it. We lived in fear for flying a Biden flag. So I just wanted to share that. I went over his shoulders and I went ahead and put up 3 signs, which ultimately were all stolen off of my property. So I'm just sharing that because everybody says they don't care who you support, right? I don't care if you support Trump. Well, he's not the president anymore anyway, so who cares whether you support him or not. But anyway, Biden, Obama, Bush, Reagan, whoever, they're political signs. These signs need to be taken down. The election is over. It was over in November. These political signs should not be up anymore. I also want to share that when I drove into our community the other day, I saw a black USA flag. I was extremely offended by that. I am very patriotic, as you can see. I said the Pledge of Allegiance every morning with my students here on my Zoom camera. And I've been flying a flag since the Iraqi war outside of my house. So when I saw that black flag coming into Canyon Lake, I was very offended. So I looked it up and I'm gonna read what it says on Google here, what a black flag stands for so that we all know. Where did it originate? The Black American flag first appeared during the American Civil War of 1865, excuse me. Confederate Army soldiers flew the black flag to symbolize the opposite of the white flag, to symbolize the opposite of the white flag of surrender. The black flag meant that the unit would not give in nor surrender, and that enemy combatants would be killed. If that's not a fighting flag, that's a fighting flag, and I'm sorry, but that has to go. Those black flags need to go. It is not it's not my red, white, and blue flag that everybody should, or I recommend flying. But anyway, that's just how I feel, and I'm very disappointed. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments, Ellen. Appreciate that. Who's next, Harmony?
We don't have any other virtual hands raised right now or messages. So if you would like to speak, please raise your virtual hand or send us a message. Okay, we have Brandon or Braden.
Yes, hello?
Yes.
Yeah, hi. Actually, this is Calvin Legit. I'm the father and owner of the property, 3846347. My main concern in this is that it's not so much the vulgarity. I have kids and stuff. I understand some people with the cancer stuff want that as well. My main concern of this whole meeting is why is this like a 180-day emergency? You know, they want to make this an emergency ruling. Why don't we just put this out as a vote? Let's do it. I'm an immigrant to this country. I came to America. I understand the way it works here in America. This is the land of freedom. Everything gets put to a vote. So put it to a vote for the community. Don't make an emergency ruling, because if you make an emergency ruling on this, What's to say you're not going to make an emergency ruling on my kids can't be 5 feet in front of my driveway on their bike? My kids can't walk down the street at 3 p.m. after school unless they're with an adult. So give it to the community as a vote. Don't start making parts where you're like, I'm going to make it an emergency ruling, because you're opening the gates. Every time you want to pass something, it's going to turn into an emergency ruling. Put it to the members, let them vote. If they vote to this and decide to agree with you on this, then it passes. That's my take on it. I mean, like I said, to me, this is truly the land of freedom. I came here 28 years ago for that reason, from a third world country, and we didn't have it like we have it here. Canyon Lake's a great place. I understand and I respect everybody's difference of opinion. Everyone has a right to their own opinion. Just let the members vote on it. Let's be adults on it. Let's not get hurt feelings. Do a vote. And let's not make it like this emergency ruling, because I'm going to guarantee the moment you start making the first emergency ruling, it's going to continue and continue. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for your comments. Who's next?
Margie Austin.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Margie Austin, 3716217. I just want to make a quick point regarding, people have mentioned that they've driven around the community, and right now they said there's just about 8 flags up. You know, elections happen, 2 and 4 years come sooner than later. Last November, there were probably over 300 political flags up. So it's not just a matter of after the election, it's how soon will it start before the next election. There's so much that you have done as a board to help keep our community beautiful, keep the aesthetics, whether it's the colors of our homes, how many trees we plant, artificial grass, when we bring the trash cans in, limiting the noise to having no noise of motorcycles. All that is done to keep this a beautiful community. These flags that proliferate at certain times of year really do make it blight the community. It's unattractive. It's, you know, people certainly can find a way to express their political opinion in so many different ways. But regardless of the nature of the poster of the flag, it's not an attractive quality in community, and they do become very intimidating to many people. And all you have to do is spend 1 hour on any of the Facebook pages in this community, and you will see the dialogue that goes on that is hostile, intimidating, and threatening. And that's it. Thank you very much.
Okay, Gordon, thank you. Thank you.
Gordon.
Who's next, Harmony?
Yeah, Sergio's iPad.
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, Sergio Flores, truck number 3804-184. And so I want to thank everyone for their time and comments. And I've got a couple of questions to everyone here. How is flying a flag harmful or damaging to anybody? My neighbors and I have a great relationship. The cove that we live in, we all get along real well. We have Biden, we have Trump supporters. There's not an issue. But I keep hearing this comment that people feel threatened. And the only issue that we really have here, we need to get along as a community. I support my neighbors, what they believe, and I respect them, and they respect me as well. Now, the issue is, we do have some people that will cross the line, and they might get violent or they may use a certain language, but there really is no reason for me to take my flag down if I support or believe a certain president. It's not harmful. The issue here is that nobody likes Donald Trump, and the reason they hate him is because of an individual. If I wanted to fly a Ronald Reagan flag, that should not be a harm to anybody. I'm not hurting anybody. We all need to get along. We all need to respect each other. And that's what it comes down to, is respecting each other's privacy and get along as a community. And that's my comment. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Sergio. Appreciate it. Who's next?
We don't have any other hands raised.
Okay, well, I think I'd like to move back to the directors for our period of discussion. We've heard lots of great comments. I have many pages of notes. So what I'm looking for is conversation from the directors, and then some recommended action that we take. The actions that we can take are to table the issue completely. We can move to turn this into a 28-day rule as written. We can make it a 28-day rule as amended, and we need amended words if we want to make it a 28-day rule, or we can approve it the way it is. So we have lots of options. So who would like to go first amongst the directors to talk about what they heard and how they'd like to see this go?
Chris, I'm going to just chime in here real quick. I saw we got an email just a few minutes ago from a lady. Did we get that comment, or are there others that still want to comment?
Some are having issues with their mics, so we asked them to email the board with their comments.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, do you want to read that comment, Tom?
It was just saying that they wanted to speak tonight. The email that I just saw.
Oops, you've gone on mute, Tom.
Yeah, the Kelly Tolbert, I believe, is the one we just spoke to. She doesn't have mic access, and she emailed the board her thoughts.
All right, yeah, that's good. I thought she was saying she wanted to speak during the meeting, but I'm mistaken. She just is expressing her concern.
So Tom, do you want to start out here?
Sure.
Or does somebody else? Go ahead.
The rules today, and people have been talking about the rules, but the rules today are primarily, and especially when we talk about political, they're virtually exclusively talking about common area. And the common area is, as we've discussed, our city streets, our parks, our properties that the POA own in common with everyone. And that is what we have much, much greater control over. And so we already do have rules, and there are some rules that are in place regarding the duration of political signs and what types of signs and flags and sizes, et cetera, that can be posted. So the discussion tonight is really about enhancing those and maybe including some things that we didn't consider in the past. And probably good conversation for tonight, because I think things have surfaced now that are items that we hadn't considered in the past. I don't know that there's going to be an answer that everybody's going to be happy with. In fact, I think that probably the answer that we come up with is going to be not satisfactory to most people, because one side wants us to basically, eliminate or prohibit everything, which isn't reasonable. And the other side is they want to let us have no restrictions and let them do whatever they want, which also, in my mind, isn't reasonable. So my thought is we're going to find a ground that is comfortable for the association as a whole and allows people to express themselves in ways that we feel are adequate for this association and this HOA. But again, I think it's just going to be a road that we come down that most people will not be happy. In response to one of the members' comments that was talking about moving versus parked, I mean, I don't know that even applies. We are talking about a common area. So whether you're on the lake and you're moving, or whether you're on the lake and you're parked, you're on a common area. Same with the city streets or the parks. It doesn't matter whether your vehicle or your vessel is moving or not. It's in the common area, and that's the whole idea, is we're trying to protect the entire membership about what they would come into contact with in the common area. The U.S. Constitution is referred to a lot tonight too. The U.S. Constitution is a government, and it applies to public areas. And as I tried to say earlier, the HOA is a little bit different. So while it's not our interest to completely ignore free speech or the First Amendment, there are things that we are guided by and governed by, which is Davis Sterling. And so we have attorneys that help us with that to make sure that we do all the things that we are entitled to and that we are provided by in that document, so that we don't unnecessarily take away things from members, but in the same respect, we do what's necessary to protect our members. Last comment also from the representative of somebody should just put this out to a vote, or we should put this out to a vote. Then it becomes political. In this particular case, this particular issue, is a political nature. So that would basically mean that the political sides would decide this, and the unfortunate minority would not have anything happen the way that they would like to see that, which I don't see that as being a fair way of dealing with this. So in my mind, an open vote to the community is not a viable option. And those are my comments.
Thank you, Tom. Who's next?
Okay, I'll go next. I'm sorry, I can't even talk right now. Specifically, I think we need to have a better understanding of what the past, present, or aspiring politician means. I am personally confused by the use of the word past. Second, I don't believe, what's the concern with painted or wrapped on vehicles? And what is the concern on that? Once again, my feeling is if somebody wants to go through the expense to wrap a vehicle, why is that an issue? And then I just think we need to further perhaps define the obscene content. And I agree with, I don't like the use of the whole Carlin's 7 dirty words. I'd like us to find a better way to define that.
Well, Jeannie, just since we're into our discussion, the whole notion of painted or wrapped was a part of the statement that says you can't put political signs on vehicles. And there's a notion of what's a political sign, and if it's put on the vehicle, if the sign is painted on the vehicle, is that okay? If the sign is part of a wrap that's wrapped around the vehicle or wrapped around a boat or a watercraft or something, is that okay? And so the painted or wrapped was really to further define about the sign itself. That's what that was about. As far as getting better clarifying, go ahead.
On the wrapped, then perhaps I'm thinking of a different meaning for wrapped. When you say a wrapped vehicle, that's where somebody goes out and they have the companies that actually wrap, what's called wrap your vehicle with, your company name or graphics or something like that. Are we talking that, or are we talking just somebody wrapping a banner and tying it around their vehicle?
Well, when I wrote the word, I intended it to be a professional wrap where it was clear plastic and it's wrapped around the boat or it's wrapped around the vehicle, and it's a way of adding sign graphics. So that's what that was, what the intention for that was supposed to be. As far as the go ahead, I'm sorry.
No, I was just saying I think maybe we need to work on that wording then a little bit.
Well, okay. Do you have? I'm going to ask you if you have any suggestions for that wording and suggestions for the clarifications on 4.6.
Perhaps under wrapped would be temporarily wrapped, making this. I don't know. I'd have to work on that a little bit.
I'd like to offer a possible solution. If we could say political signs may not be displayed on vehicles, golf carts, or watercraft. I think that might encompass any kind of wrapping or signage that's going to go painted on the vehicle. At least it could certainly be interpreted that way, and it's, I think, a little bit clearer.
Okay.
I also, I'm glad to see the definition of signs defined as posters, flags, and banners. I think we need that, either that or we need a whole set of rules for posters, flags, and banners. But I don't want to go down that road. I think encompassing those all in that same GR 4.5 works for me. The definition of a political sign could probably be strengthened and made a little clearer. I'd also well, we talked about watercrafts. I'd like to do that. I think that's, like someone said earlier, I think that was just an oversight in the rules when they were originally made. And I think we better spend more time, I think we need to spend more time on the definition of the foul language or profanity, however you want to call it. So I'd like to see this go to a 28-day read. I think that would be probably best for the community, give us time to, as a board, to think about it, and as a community to share their thoughts on these specific items. We can get off on tangents about banners and signs on your private property, but this has nothing to do with that. We'd like to get community input on these specific items in the next, I would like to get it in the next 28 days. So that's where I'm at.
Understand, Joe. Thank you. I'd just like to clarify for you that if we were able to amend this so that we were satisfied with it, then we could approve it for a 28-day rule. If we approve it for a 28-day rule right now, the way it is, and we want to change it, we can do that, but we're going to have to put it out for another 28-day rule after that. And that's fine. I mean, I just wanted to make sure that that was clear. It may be impossible, given all the good input that we've had tonight, to get this to a 28-day rule that will stand. And we can go ahead and approve this as a 28-day rule with the expectation we're going to change it. But we just need to decide what we want to do.
Hey, Chris, if I can just make a comment to kind of follow up with what both you and Joe have said. If we make it a 28-day rule starting tonight, that's going to bring us mid-cycle again on our board meetings. Why don't we put it on the agenda to start the 28-day read at our March meeting? That would give us some time to work on this language a little bit, if we wanted. And then we could start the 28 days at our March meeting with the thought that we'd either approve or disapprove the rule at our April meeting. Otherwise, we'll be having another special meeting in the middle of March to approve this 28-day rule.
Well, you know, we are certainly permitted to do what we think is best for the community. And what you just described is certainly something that we could do. And all I need is a motion to describe it. But before we get to motions, I wanted to make sure that we heard from everybody, and then I'm going to cycle back for a motion on how we're going to handle this. So, Joe, did we hear? I think we heard everything that you were interested in saying. Is that correct?
Yes, you did.
Okay, Jim, do you have any more that you'd like to contribute?
Jim, if you don't mind, before you go, just to kind of clarify for Jeannie, there are months where we do have 5 weeks between our meetings and they go 35 days. And what happens when we have a 28-day rule read is if it goes overtime, that's not a problem. The rule says that we have to give the members 28 days of opportunity. And usually our cycle gives them that in 4 weeks. But if we were to have, for example, a 5-week time frame, we would just bring it up 35 days later and have still met the 28-day read or rule read because we've gone beyond that time. So my point being more that we wouldn't have to call a special meeting. This would still happen in April, assuming that if anybody did anything tonight, it would go past the March meeting and then just get adopted on the April meeting.
But we would still, in order to do that, Tom, we would still need to have final words. Jeannie is, and we don't have any extra time between now and March 9th, I believe it is. We do have extra time between March 9th and the April meeting. Actually, I don't think we do because we shifted February and March to accommodate the fact that we shifted January. And what we really did is we had to wait until we got to the 5 weeks before we could catch up. So that's why our meetings are off sequence, because what we did in January. So anyway,
so can we
comments? Jim,
so can we just motion? Can we just motion this to be ready for a 28-day reading in April, at the April whatever date that would be?
I think that would be a motion to table the recommendation for until the March 9th meeting, and to accommodate at that time to attempt to accommodate all the community's input and the input that we've gotten from the directors.
That would seem reasonable to do that.
Well, okay, I understand. The thing that we have to do, and we need time to think about this, is we can only have this conversation at a board meeting. Now we can bring it up at a board meeting on March 9th, which is perfectly okay. We can have a draft of this or whatever it's going to be out to everyone before that. But then I would have to ask you to please come to that meeting with edits in mind so that we can go through the editing process, much like we did with the parking rules last meeting, go through the editing process so we can pass a 28-day rule that will stand unless we decide to change it again. If we don't decide to change it again and we don't get any more community input, then we can pass it. You see what I mean?
Okay.
I think while we're all here tonight, if that's what the intent is, to try and come back on March 9th with something that's revised, either we all need to do that revision as best as we can through the comments and impressions that we each have, and give them to Chris, and Chris, being the one that brought this forward, can bring back an edited version based on all of our comments, or we can just talk about it and edit it live tonight and go forward with it tonight. And then it would still be a rule read, like Joe said, that goes 28 days, which would end up being more like 40 some odd days by the time we get to the April meeting. And then in April, if it turns out that we don't adopt what's written, we make an edit and it goes for another 28 days.
Okay, I could sure use a motion if that's the consensus of the group.
Okay, I'm not sure how to actually say this motion, so I'm sure Tom will let me know what I'm trying to say. I would like to table this discussion tonight and bring it forward on our March 9th agenda so that we have time to think about member comments tonight and be prepared to discuss any modifications we want to make on the rule on March 9th so that it can be read on the 28th or read on the 9th for the 28-day reading with the rule going into effect in April, if we agree on it. That's the longest motion I've ever made.
And I'll second that.
All right. Okay, we have a motion and a second to table this for tonight, bring it back to the March 9th meeting in some revised format. I just added those words, Jeannie, so if that's not your intention, let me know. In some revised format that we can discuss and hopefully get it to where we can approve as a 28-day rule. I got that correct, Jeannie?
You sure did, thank you.
Okay. Any other discussion?
Well, the only thing I'll add is that I think if nothing else, because this is our opportunity as a director or the 5 directors together, that if there is a way to go through each of the sections that you've identified already for us tonight and have members of the board offer their comments about any either adds, changes, deletes that they would like to see, that might be helpful for trying to craft a more revised and fine-tuned presentation for the March meeting.
I was going to make that request, Tom, because I agree with you, but I was going to get this thing tabled before I made the request. But anyway, any other discussion? All those in favor say aye.
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 Is that everybody? Okay.
Think so.
All right. Okay. So we're tabled, and what Tom has said is exactly what we need, because I will need to bring this back in some revised form. Again, we can't get together and noodle this out behind closed doors. I have to have each of you go and figure out revised text and bring it and send it to me, and I will turn that into some revised text that I will present at the March 9th meeting. Certainly, since this has been tabled now, you are free to look beyond just these 5 items. If there's something else that you would like to have considered, you could let me know. Or if some of this you don't want to have considered, let me know about that, and we can go from there. Okay, I will just say congratulations, board, on excellent discussion. Extra congratulations to our community for terrific input. I agree with what has been said. We've learned more things through this process. I'm sure that's why the process has been established the way it has been, that we diligently seek to follow. So I'd like to close this agenda item and move on to our next agenda item, which is comments from the community on any non-personnel issues. Do we have any other comments from the community?
Yes. Reminder to raise your hand if you can virtually, or send us a message if you're having any issues. And to also state your name and track and lot. First, we have Brian. Okay, we can come back. Next, we have Art Flemister.
Not hearing you, Art. Are you muted?
Okay, I'm sorry. So I just want to thank everybody tonight on that. If I can give feedback that will help you in your process. I think when you have an emergency rule, that amps everybody up in the community, because the word emergency is meant to do that. Hey, this is an emergency. So may I just politely and respectfully suggest in the future we be very careful about using the word emergency, because none of us can understand what the emergency was here. So not get everybody thinking this is just trying to get jammed through. That was our thought process. It appears it was wrong because all the board has thought carefully about this. So I appreciate that. And that's just what I wanted to pass along. I think the other area, and Tom was actually really good on this, I think, and all the board members were, is the common area versus your personal area. That's a big area of confusion. Most people don't understand what a POA is. I still don't understand all the components of the common interest development, if you will. So I think breaking that out and saying we're talking about what you can do on the street in public versus what you can do at your house. That would be when you write the rule, if you explain that this only applies to you at your house, or this only applies to what you can do on the street. I think that would help, just kind of breaking it down to baby language, because you guys talk this stuff all day long. You understand the ins and outs. Most of us out here don't. I think I do a little better than most people, but that would be very helpful. So again, I just want to thank all the board members. Your comments were very helpful, and we see thoughts being put into this now, so I'll let it go at that. And I, again, just appreciate all your time and hope you're all doing well and get to see you face to face soon. Good night.
Okay, to not be defensive, but to just clearly state on behalf of the folks that believe this is an emergency. And we had one report tonight that there were 200 households. People were intimidated and were afraid to speak because of retaliation. That was the source of the emergency. And the conversation with the board has brought it forward that was not the emergency. That was not the emergency that we felt it was. So to say that we should never use this again, which you didn't say, what you said is we should use this carefully. I will say I agree. We should use this carefully. As regard to say this in simple language, I just want to say, and this really isn't a reflection on anything you said, Art. I just want to say that this board has taken the time to write to the community every week in our email address. It appears on Friday afternoons. Sometimes it appears as a special alert. Our rules are very, very carefully written. You'll notice at the top of this page, it says in the community setback. If folks would take the time to just look through the rules and to understand about their community, or call and ask that questions, I think that would be extremely helpful. Obviously, the conversation on Facebook is like conversation amongst folks wherever they are, and they can do that. But when it breeds emergencies and it breeds a lot of misunderstanding, I'll only say that it's unfortunate. Okay, do we have any other comments, member comments?
We'll call on Brian again.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes, thank you. My tracking lot is 3719352. And my question to the board is, I just, like a few others here, I know there's many on one side of the coin here who seem to find that there's some huge emergency in this, which I wasn't even aware of. But I mean, what is the emergency to pass something like this through? Yes,
Brian, we've gone beyond that agenda item. We've decided to table that whole the issue, bring it back at the March 9th meeting with revisions based on comments that the directors are going to make to the president, who's the author of this provision. Any member that wants to write to me and tell me what they think these words ought to say, we can do. We are now in the member comment period that has to do with other member comments. Do you have something else that you'd like to talk to us about beside this?
Well, I know unity was brought up a lot here regarding this and getting back to that, but I don't understand how suppression brings unity. And why not let the residents of the community vote on this?
Brian, I believe you're talking about the first issue on our agenda. Is that correct?
That's correct. I wasn't able to.
That item is closed. That item is closed. We're going to move on. I'm looking for member comments on other non-personnel issues. Harmony, do we have any others?
I see. So we'll just ram it through then.
There's no ramming it through, please. I'm gonna continue to be as patient as I possibly can be. We've had an agenda item. We've had 2 hours of conversation about it. The board has moved to table it and to reconsider it and to bring it back again. So there's no ramming through. Please, Harmony, is there someone else?
We have Stephen Warner. Stephen Warner. Okay, we don't have any other hands raised. If you'd like to speak, could you raise your hand now or send us a message? I think that's our last comment.
Okay, thank you very much. Appreciate the comments. We'll conclude our member comment on non-personnel issues phase. Announce that our next meetings, as I've been saying, our next meetings will occur on March 9th, 6:00 p.m. in regular session. Unless something changes, it will continue to be a Zoom meeting. I appreciate everybody's attendance and all of your input. Again, what I would encourage you to please continue to write to us, but please. I need specific suggestions about what rules need to be changed. The board seems to have an appetite for making some changes. You've heard that tonight. Specific changes would be greatly appreciated. Look forward to seeing you all on March 9th as we move this forward to the next step, hopefully. Thank you very much and good night.